So we'll get fully into it. Before we do so, just because of the conversation that is going to be had today, and as always, we do it in every webinar, we are going to go through our little disclaimer here for a second. So, Horizon Trust Company is a passive custodian and, as such, only performs the duties of a custodian. Horizon Trust does not provide advice, sell investments, nor offer any tax or legal advice. So, with that, we will cover a lot of topics, and there are areas that the IRS hasn't fully outlined as to what you can and can't do in regard to what we're going to be talking about today. But it's going to provide you so much information. So with that, Kurt, why don't you give us a quick introduction about yourself? Give us a quick 2-minute rundown, who you are, what you do, and kind of we'll just go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Kurt Naswitz. I live in Mesa, Arizona. It's where our office is located. I got into real estate in 2018. I made a big move that year across the country from Connecticut to Arizona. Just kind of wanted more in my life, and ended up working for a wholesale company. And that's what I did primarily, was acquisitions for them. And then did that for 2 years. And in 2020, I started my own business. And fast forward now, it's been 5 years. We own our own office building, done over 600 transactions, wholesale. We do fix and flip. I've got 19 rental properties, and I also do some private money lending. So kind of all aspects of real estate investing is what I do in specifically the Arizona market.
Nice, Kurt. Yeah. As mentioned, I've been following you for a while. After I discovered who you were, I found your social media and just started following, and kind of just seeing the story, seeing you grow. And you've grown in many ways, personally,
Yeah.
business, like just every aspect of you, your social media presence. And so it's amazing to see your growth. And I didn't know that you kind of started on your own in 2020. How did that kind of go during the pandemic? So, there's a lot of talk right now about difficult times and people being
Yeah.
scared. 2020 was also a difficult time and people being scared.
Yeah. I mean, it was really tough. I started my business in February of 2020. And what I started doing was trying to find deals for this hedge fund in Phoenix called Progress Residential. I thought I was going to kill it with them. They were buying as many properties that fit a specific buy box. So I spent about 2 or 3 months pulling data, marketing, cold calling until I got 3 or 4 deals under contract with them. And then when everything hit with COVID, they canceled them all. So, the first 6 months in this business for me were super brutal. I think I did 1 or 2 deals in the first 6 months, but just like anything, I just hung in there, stayed consistent, and it's going to work out in the long run if you're just staying in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great advice for anyone kind of concerned with conditions right now.
Yeah.
You can do it. Just push through. So we'll obviously here to talk about self-directing and to hear your story on self-directing, which goes probably a huge part into your business, so your
Yeah.
background. So how did you first hear about self-directed IRAs and what made you interested in using one?
Yeah. So like I first heard about it, I was at a mastermind, which if you guys ever get the opportunity to pay money to go to a mastermind, I highly recommend it. I went to Chris Nagel's mastermind in Utah, Sundance, Utah, and Greg was just sitting at the table I was at, and we started striking up a conversation. And he was telling me about what he does with the Roth IRAs. And I had about maybe 30, 40 minutes with him at lunch, just ask him every question I could. Like, could I do this with it? Could I do that? And he's a real estate guy, I believe.
Mhm.
He came from the
Yeah.
real estate world and then got into the IRA or the trust situation. And I would just ask him everything, and he answered everything in a way that I couldn't believe that this was like a legal thing and that people didn't even know how to do it. It was just too good to be true, it seemed at the time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely so Greg's background is definitely in real estate. That's kind of how he started, and he learned about self-directing very young because when
Yeah.
he wanted his first real estate deal, he borrowed from someone's self-directed retirement account. and that person didn't pay anything in taxes because they did it through their self-directed account, and Greg made his return, so that was the start of Greg's life into self-directing. So similarly, you met someone, to my knowledge, Greg didn't lend you money, but you
No.
learned about the power of self-directing and then
Yep.
implemented it yourself. So did you reach out to us shortly after that and just open an account?
I'm trying to think exactly when that was. I remember the catalyst for me on when I reached out and did it was I started making real money in 2021. Like that year, I did very, very well for myself, and in 2022, early that year, I got a $250,000 tax bill. So that
Oof.
was like the biggest tax bill by far I'd ever gotten. I really wasn't ready for it. And, I paid it, but I had to come up and re-strategize. I'm like, okay, how do I pay less in taxes? One of the best ways is to, invest in your self-directed Roth IRA. And
Absolutely.
what I mean by that is like, if I'm going to do a deal in my Roth IRA, it's taken off the books of my as income on my business.
Yep.
So, that's super powerful if not only am I putting, say, a 20 or 40K assignment away tax free, but I'm also not paying taxes on it that I would have from the business that I'm doing it in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So no, and that's a great point, and can be done with pretty much any type of account here at Horizon, because they're all taxed in different ways. You, for example, opened up a Roth IRA. So that
Hmm.
means that money you've already paid your taxes on, and it's now going to grow tax free. Sure, you might pay taxes on the investment, so municipal taxes or anything like that. That's just transactional stuff. That's stuff that's going to happen on a regular basis, regardless of whether it's in a Roth or done outside from you personally or from your business. But you started with $6,000, and what was your mindset once you had that 6,000 in there? Did you, like, I know you do a variety of different things. So what did you think was going to be the best option to start?
I mean, to be honest, I was like, at first, I wasn't like a huge fan or super excited about it because, I didn't like the fact that you had to wait till you were 59 and a half to pull the money out. I was like, why am I doing this? Then I realized that this is money I'm going to be paying either to the government or I can put it in this account and save for retirement. And it's going to go on my net worth. If you guys fill out a net worth sheet, they ask you how much you have in an IRA or a 401k. So the way I looked at it was I'm going to either pay the government this money or I'm going to put it in my account and save for retirement. And once I kind of got in that mindset, I was like all in, all in about doing it.
Yeah. No, that is a very good way of looking at it. As mentioned, today is April 1st.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are going to file your individual taxes, if you haven't done so already, taxes are due this year. And or this month, not this year. They're due every year.
Soon, couple weeks, right?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If you do business taxes, you can do extensions and file all the way up till like October. And I believe you can do that personal as well. I have a friend that I want to say does that too, but that's just more on a personal standpoint. So that is a very good way of putting it, Kurt. Sure, I'm not going to have access to this money right
Yep.
now, but I can have access to it in the future when I need it
Hmm.
and when I don't want to work as hard. So that is a
Yeah.
very good way of looking at that Roth account. Um, so what type of investment did you choose to do first, and why?
Hmm. So I contributed $6,000 to my account. I had 6 grand in there. Typically, it'll tell you to, invest in the stock market or, the S&P 500, and that's only going to get you a 12% return. But because my knowledge in real estate, I took this $6,000 and I would invest $1,000 at a time into a purchase contract. For those of you that wholesale, that's just the earnest money you put down. So I would get a deal and I would contract the deal in my IRA's name. I'd put $1,000 down as my earnest money. That's my investment. And then when I sell it and assign it, the assignment fee is my return. So I believe on the first one, I put $1,000 earnest money down. and I got $22,000 back. So
Jeez,
immediately I had 28 grand in my account.
that's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And and I'm familiar with real estate as well. I am familiar with wholesaling, and everyone wants to do a wholesale deal, especially one that gives you that type of return, just
Yeah.
because of how great it is. People don't really know the hard work that goes into doing a wholesale deal. Lots of calls, lots of no's,
It
200
is.
no's before the single yes.
Yeah.
So, so how'd you go about finding that deal? Or were you doing that through your business, or did you do that on your own time?
Yeah. So, I mean, we find deals of multitude of ways. We do cold calling, we do mailers, texting, but our tried and true is cold calling. That's what we do more than any other marketing channel. And yeah, we just decided that once a quarter we were gonna do one of these assignment fees in our IRA. And we only really chose to do the bigger ones. If we're going to do only a few a year, we didn't want to do the ones that were 5 or 10 grand. We knew when we had a big spread and when that quarter was going really well, we could take some revenue off of the books, so to speak, and put it in this retirement account. So that's kind of how we viewed it, is we would look at how are things going this quarter. And typically toward the end of the quarter, if we knew we had a big assignment fee, 20, 40, 60,000, that was one that we would put in our IRA.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I want to tackle a couple of these points that are coming in, or these questions that
Yeah.
are coming in, as well as a point that you just mentioned. So you mentioned doing about a deal a quarter. And for those of you watching right now or watching this on a replay, the IRS doesn't exactly have limitations on what you can and can't do in regard to something like wholesaling. There is guidelines that your self-directed account needs to be a passive investment. It
Hmm.
can't be something that you are actively in. And that's kind of where you fall into a gray area. So this is somewhere that you'll probably want to talk with a CPA, financial advisor, to see what that is. So Kurt's method of doing a deal a quarter could be very beneficial along the lines. We at Horizon Trust are not saying that that is correct or that is not correct. We're just saying that, that's what he has selected to do. And as long as the IRS sees it as passive and he's not doing a deal every week or every month or something like that,
Yeah.
that's most likely where the IRS starts changing from, hey, this is no longer passive and this is now your active investments and you are working way too hard on this.
Right.
So him doing those bigger deals, he's maximizing the efficiency to be able to get that higher return in the allotted time for a year. One of the questions that's here from Gabe, I thought you could only contribute $7,000 to a Roth IRA. So, Gabe, that is current IRS regulations for this year. You can do $7,000 for 2025. I believe 2024 is also $7,000. And there are catch up contributions if you are over the age of 50, which gives you an extra $1,000. So that is just a contribution that you're able to make into the account. I want to say that when Kurt opened his account a couple years ago, 6,000 was the limit, so that's why he was at 6,000, and not.
Yeah, Gabe, I put in 6,000, and then for earnest money, we're putting in 500, 1,000, $2,000. So you only need to fund it one time with the 6 or 7,000. Then um, you use the deposit as your earnest money. You use your money in your Roth IRA as your earnest money, which is your investment. That's your money into the deal, and your return is the assignment fee.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Heather's asking, how does the average person do this? So, Kurt, that is your business. You've been doing this for 5 years now. How does someone like her go through this process of doing a wholesale deal?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I was an average person. I was a pool guy before I got into real estate. So, I mean, anybody can do this business. It all starts with just finding a distressed seller or a motivated seller or a property that needs work. And it could be as much as just paying attention to your surroundings. I posted a story or a video a couple days ago. of a drug house. I was buying a house next door to this drug house. I was there for a couple minutes, seeing everybody coming and going. So I said, something's weird's going on at this house. Let me look up the owner. The owner lived in North Carolina. He was an out-of-state owner. And I said, hey, do you know what's going on at your rental property? Like, it's bad over there. I want to buy it. And I ended up sending him a video of what was going on. And he reached back out to me, and I came up with a deal where I bought it from him and made $10,000. So a lot of it's just paying attention to your surroundings. If you see a property that's distressed or there's some weird people coming and going from there, that's a good indicator that that's probably a wholesale seller.
That's a great point. And then I just want to talk about this because we are going to get through this, probably a couple more times because it's kind of your whole method, Kurt, of how you've
Yep.
grown your account. Can you kind of simplify what a wholesale deal is for those who are watching and maybe don't know what wholesaling is?
Yeah, absolutely. Wholesale deal is essentially you are creating a purchase contract with somebody for their property, and you are essentially finding a buyer and assigning your contract to them. So you're just getting a contract and basically getting it at a price below what you can sell it for. So if you can find somebody that a house that needs a ton of work, or a seller that might have inherited a house, or there's a multitude of situations, but essentially you're getting the house under market and you're selling it for a markup to a buyer. And you're just the middleman, you're moving the paper, and that's what's called wholesaling, and that's how you get an assignment fee.
Yeah. No, it's a very good strategy for those of you that aren't aware of it, which I know a lot of you come from Greg's social media and Greg's
Hmm.
background, which is also real estate. So many of you might already know this, but for those of you that didn't, it is a very it's complicated in finding the deal, but once you have that deal, it's a simple process. And here at Horizon Trust, we're able to assist you with it as well, because we can send the earnest money to title for you
Yep.
directly from your self-directed account, which is what Kurt did. He did this about 3 to 4 times with us here, and then once you kind of had a lot of money, you just started a checkbook LLC and took it from there yourself.
That was a game changer too. It was just way less paperwork. So what I did is when I first got started, I was doing, you know, 3 or 4 of these a year, and somebody at Horizon Trust was like, "Hey, you're kind of being annoying. You're sending so many deals through. Like, why don't you create an LLC?" So I forget who did it. Was it Prime? You guys
Uh,
hooked me up with somebody to set up the LLC. So
yeah,
I have an LLC, Kurt IRA LLC, and the member of that LLC is my custodian,
is your Roth
um,
IRA. Yep,
your Roth
Horizons.
IRA.
Hmm.
And then so now instead of having a custodian, I have all my money in just a Chase account.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can pull the trigger on properties way quicker now, and it's sped everything up.
yeah, absolutely. So, I want to just laugh about this point for a second. I was like, I hope no one really told you that you're being annoying for your paperwork, because that's just hilarious to me. I have a feeling I know who maybe would have told you that,
Yeah.
hey, why don't you do a checkbook LLC? I doubt they would have said annoying, but it's
No,
just,
that I don't think they said that, but I kind of got the gist because,
yeah,
if I ask for something, like I want it to happen quickly, and then I think, things just take time, a day or
I,
2 days. And especially
absolutely.
in real estate, you got to be urgent. If someone sends you a deal, you want to get an earnest money like right away.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And
yeah.
our process has changed significantly since you were like investing through us, Kurt. So we're definitely a lot faster now. So you are able to do it through us in a much quicker turnaround if anyone is interested. But like Kurt mentioned, you can do that through a checkbook LLC and have all that control yourself. Once that deal comes in, you have access to the bank. You still want to make sure that all your paperwork is correct, all the titling is correct, all of that
Yeah.
information still has to be correct, but now you're substituting Horizon's information on the paperwork for your checkbook LLC, which kind of helps streamline that process significantly. And if
And I
because
was a
you're
bit nervous when I did the checkbook LLC because I knew that I had you guys and you guys were going to make sure I did everything the right way. So I looked at all the paperwork that they collected for the first 4 or 5 that I did with them, and I just copied the same thing. I made sure I had the same paperwork, so every deal's filed. So if I ever get, audited or anything happens, I can just easily hand it over and say, look, here's the paperwork from each of these transactions.
Kurt, my guy, that's literally what we tell everyone who has a checkbook LLC. Keep all your
Really?
paperwork, file everything,
Yep.
make sure you have a paper trail so that if you ever get audited, you can cover
Here you
yourself.
go.
So, my guy, you are doing the thing.
Thank you.
Um, um, so now that you've been doing this for roughly 3 years,
hmm
what experiences have you learned? Like, what do you wish you could maybe go back and do differently, or what would you change?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I started doing this earlier. I think, when you're young and you're in your early 20s, like the idea of retirement and IRA, 401k, it's like boring. It's so far down the road. You're not really excited about it. But all it took for me was that big year of taxes. And then I realized, okay, there's other things I can do to pay less in taxes and put some money away for retirement. Um, So just learning about this sooner is what I would have done. I would have saved myself some time from paying a lot in taxes. And then the other thing I learned through doing this, so my strategy was I funded my account with $6,000 and then I started wholesaling. I did about 4 or 5 wholesale deals. Then I look at my account and I'm like, I have 100,000 in my account that's just sitting here in a checking account. So instead of it having just sit there in the checking, I would do loans for people. So I did a secondary construction loan for somebody for $90,000, and a year later he paid me 25,000. So I lost money, and that's a lesson I learned too: is make sure you vet whoever you're doing loans with. Make sure that you try to be in first position if you can, and you know I was chasing a high return on that, but that's another lesson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, one of the questions that came in from Nina about the checkbook LLC, and I just want to cover this real quick. Do they send you physical checks for your checkbook LLC? Yes, Nina, they do actually. They send you a little bit of a checkbook because you can open an account anywhere. So Kurt mentioned that he opened one with Chase. Here at Horizon, we have a couple team members of ours who all partnered together to make one group LLC, and we make investments together. And we opened our bank account through Titan Bank. They work well with self-directed accounts. They know the process, they understand everything. So it was very easy to kind of get the whole ball rolling. And they do send you checks, but it's a normal bank account. I can send a wire, I can send an ACH, or I can write a check. Usually, if you're doing a deal like a wholesale deal and sending it over to title, you want that money quick. So usually you're going to do a wire, $25, $30 wire fee is what it is. I know Chase also has some benefits depending on how much you're transacting. So it really just depends on your banking situation, what you're going to be doing to select the right bank account. But yes, you can definitely have an actual checkbook. That's just kind of what we refer to it here. When we talk about an LLC for your retirement account, we just call it a checkbook LLC. Titan Bank spelled like that. Hey,
What's up,
Greg,
Greg?
Hey,
welcome.
how's it going?
How you
I,
doing?
good. I just finished my call like 10 minutes ago. Sorry for interrupting. I could not change, so I wanted to jump in. I was listening the last 10 minutes, so I wanted to. I'm gonna let you guys keep going. It's great, but I just wanted to say thank you, Kurt. We've used your example several times, and it's impressive. And so and what I love how when I'm listening to you, that's why I wanted to chime on and to say is it's you made it look so easy, and it truly is. I think from what I've
Yeah,
understood and the way I've listened to you the last few minutes too, is just anyone can do this. The hardest part's probably the first deal, getting it all
yeah,
kind of set up. But and even if you did, like Kurt, if you had just done one or two deals a year, one
yeah,
deal, right? $500. Like for those listening here, if you're like, hey, look, I want to start, I would like to do this, but I only have $1,000 or $2,000. Well, the example you just gave works. You could
Yep.
start a Roth with $1,000, do one wholesale deal a year, make $20,000. Takes work. There's
Yeah.
no, there's, I mean, that just like anything, but now you got $21,000 and then rinse and repeat. And so,
Yeah.
you're a great example of this. And so I just wanted to come on as well and thank you for being here today. So it's good to hear from clients that are doing it. We
Yeah.
talk about it all the time, but some people are like, oh no, it's not for me, or it's, you've done this for so many years. I can't do it. Kurt, it's a great example. So yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Greg. I got a lot away when we talked in Utah, and you kind of
Yeah.
broke down exactly what it was, and I could ask, all the questions about, what I could and couldn't do with it. And that just gave me the confidence to do it.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
good. Sorry to interrupt you guys. I'm going to stay on for another a little bit and then I'll get off here, but if you don't mind, but
Yeah.
I'll put it on mute. Go ahead here, guys.
Yeah, you're good, Greg. No, welcome. No, absolutely, Kurt. So yeah, we're getting a lot of conversations in the chat. People are asking a lot of questions about this. So just kind of before we do get a little sidetracked, Kurt, if anyone does want to connect with you and kind of learn more, because we're definitely not going to be able to cover everything, how can someone get in contact with you to do so?
I mean, I'm gonna put it in the chat, my Instagram name. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Perfect. And then while he does that, everyone, one of the questions that I saw in here, let me see if I can find it again. You guys are very active in the chat and I love it. Can can the Horizon Trust help convert from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA? So yes, we can assist you with that. You would open up a Roth IRA, and if you already have a traditional account with us, then we just do a Roth conversion. That's pretty much
Mhm.
what it's called, and we're able to assist you with that. You will pay taxes on those traditional funds to have that converted to Roth, but now it's going to grow tax free because now it's a Roth. If you don't have a traditional IRA with us, we would still open both, but essentially only keep the Roth IRA open once the conversion has been completed. So you would need to complete two applications and open both accounts, but one of them would essentially just be the conversion account that we would use. And yeah, Titan Bank, I mentioned it. A lot of you are talking about it. So Titan, yeah, exactly like, TITAN is what it's called. And a lot of people looks like you guys are working with it. So Kurt, kind of back to some of the questions. So this is your job. This is what you do,
Mhm.
how can or what advice do you have for maybe someone who doesn't do this on a regular basis and like Greg mentioned maybe has $500 to
Mhm.
put towards a deal? What can they do to make sure they're covering their basis and being safe with their investment to be risk adverse? And just a reminder, Horizon Trust, we don't provide financial advice or anything like that, so do your due diligence. But Kurt, what insight do you have for these individuals?
Yeah, I mean, I think wholesaling is the best way to get started with this, because you put down your investment, which is your earnest money, but you have an inspection period, you have a contingency period. So if for some reason you can't find a buyer, um, paying a more than what your contract price is, or if something's wrong with the property that you didn't see, like you can pull out of the deal within your inspection period. So, I mean, I would say wholesaling is the best way to get started and just kind of pump some money into your IRA.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. One of the questions, Suzanne, you just asked this: can this only be done in an IRA? What about a solo 401k? So with Horizon Trust, we are a self-directed custodian, and that self-directed is the key. So the self-directing is the vehicle that allows you to do this. You could do
Mhm.
that in IRA, SEP, Roth, Trad, simple 401k, 401k tax-free, which is essentially a Roth, but inside of a 401k plan. Pretty much any account that we hold at Horizon, you're a not pretty much any account that we hold at Horizon, you can do. We offer education accounts as well. So if you have kids and you want to start building their education fund, you can open one of those accounts and do a wholesale deal once or twice a year, and your kids' money for college will be set by the time they're 18. Hey, Greg, how's Summer's retirement account coming along? Uh,
Sadly, I would say, I mean, I got 5 kids, right? So I've not started hers. She's 2, but the other ones, they do have Roth accounts and they're teenagers. So yeah.
Listen, Summer's on your Instagram, so I think she's more than enough earned income to contribute to a Roth.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say, and I think Kurt, you mentioned this right before I got on and I was listening. Or maybe it was one of the questions you asked Alex, but my oldest son, who's 22, he's doing this with his Roth,
Hmm.
and my 18-year-old now works for my 22-year-old, and he's
Wow.
out finding deals for him to wholesale.
Yeah,
And so it's a lot of work, right? I mean, my 18-year-old, I talked to him,
yeah,
he's at dinner table, and he every day he's spending 2 or 3 hours. That's it. I mean, but that's still a lot of work, especially if you have another job, right? He's going to school and has,
totally.
doing a few other things too. But it goes to show that if you put the time into it, a couple hours a day, which I know is a lot, especially when you got kids and businesses, et cetera, potentially, you can find these deals, make the 20s or $40,000. So
Yeah, absolutely. And just to compound on that, I think if you're doing one, I would say stick with one marketing channel. So if you're doing 2 or 3 hours per day of cold calling, continue to do that over and over. Or if you want to do texting, do that for 2 to 3 hours a day every single day, because you'll just get really good at it, and you'll start to know what you're doing wrong, and you won't kind of get confused with all the different marketing strategies. So what's your son doing for marketing?
he is. I'm sure I'll botch this a little bit, but from what I understand, he is basically cold calling realtors in two
Yep.
different markets, in Jacksonville, and I forget the other market, but 2 markets. And he cold calls realtors on different, researching different, properties. And then he gets these realtors. So now he's only been doing this for 4 months. My 18-year-old has found 5 deals. They've closed on
Wow,
3.
that's awesome.
And but I what he's told me now is he's made so many phone calls to realtors that they now call him with deals. And so he's
Beautiful.
accepting more than he's outbounding, which, again, takes a lot of work. And
Yeah.
so I just know it's with realtors. That's who he's talking to. And he's literally cold calling, because I see the text messages and phone calls, and it's hilarious. Because I'm like, if they only knew he's 18 years old.
Yeah.
And so, his first couple of calls are like, oh yeah, what about this and what about this? He didn't know what a title company was. I mean, so I mean,
Yeah.
just to give you an idea. So, anyways, yeah, that's what he's doing.
It's tried and true. The cold calling is tried and true, and it works. And that's our primary marketing channel too.
So Kurt, I want to give some time to the audience to do a little Q and
Yeah.
A at the end. So, but just before we do get in there, I have a couple more questions for you that I kind of just want to grasp it, just so that we can kind of like close this out for everyone who may be hesitant, and not necessarily close it out because we'll still do Q&A and everything. So if there's more questions, we'll expand on it. But what are current goals that you're looking to do with your self-directed account moving forward?
Yeah. I just want to continue to do, very selective deals in there per quarter. I want to make the goal to do at least one transaction per quarter in my Roth IRA, self-directed Roth IRA. And what I'm getting into now is, I'm building up a lot of cash in this account. It's not getting me any return just sitting there. And I only need, a few $1,000s to do the strategy I'm doing now. So I want to start buying properties and holding them in that too. So my goal in the next year or 6 months is to actually buy a property that I'm going to keep as a rental. And then, that way the money in my account isn't just sitting there. I can start actually deploying it and buying properties. Um, and then instead of wholesaling, we've also been purchasing properties in our IRAs and reselling them. So actually, one of the guys in here, Jackson, sold us a property that we bought in our IRA, and 2 weeks later, we just resold it. So, it's kind of a step above wholesaling, but I only did that until I had enough money in my account to do it.
Love it.
No, and
That's awesome.
that's a great, yeah, that's a
There he
great
is,
strategy to
Jackson.
do.
Yep.
There it is. And so what's a piece of advice you'd maybe give to an audience member right now that hasn't started?
I would say just start. I mean, this you're gonna be grateful you did down the road. I mean, I'm 34. I can't touch his money till I'm 59 and a half. So it still seems like a long ways away, but I'm going to be set up then. I'll hopefully have a couple $1 million in the account by then, tax free when I pull it out. And the other thing I keep stressing is like, you can either put the money into the IRA, the Roth IRA, or you can pay the government. It's going to go to taxes if you don't put it in there. And that's the way I look at it. Even if it's not 100% correct, that's the way I've been looking at it is I can put it in an account to build my net worth or pay the government.
Yeah. No, that's a great point there. Um, Perfect.
I'm gonna jump off, but I do think before you kind of go to question that, well, this is a good question. I think you should jump out on real quick too. I think BJ's asking. I think you did this, but maybe a little bit more detail. Can you share and walk through a wholesaling transaction one more time? I feel like you did a little bit, but maybe just do that again because that is a big one. The
Yeah.
wholesaling transaction and again, as I take off, I know you guys are gonna wrap up. I wasn't even supposed to be here, so thank you, and I apologize for
Thanks
those
for
that think
popping
I
in.
probably interrupted too much. But our plug is always this: what Kurt just said. Take action. Start an account. This is our hard sales pitch, by the way. It's like you hear these things. If you have an old IRA, get an account established. Invest in what you know, like, or understand. You'll be
Yeah.
so much happier later. So thanks for coming on, Kurt. Maybe go over that one question and then the other ones as well. But I think that's a good one to kind of go over again, kind of the wholesaling process. So
Yeah.
appreciate you
Good to see
guys.
you, Greg. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great
Thanks.
Thanks,
seeing you.
Greg. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Yeah. So Michelle asked, can we go over the process again? Was it Michelle? Jesus, you guys are really in the chat, so I'm losing my questions over here. BJ asked, can you share a walkthrough of a wholesaling transaction? So let's use a couple of examples. So Kurt, you found a deal from me and you're trying to sell it to Greg. What is that process of wholesaling where I have the property currently? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So if you have the property currently and you're another wholesaler, right? Where in that situation, you're a wholesaler. What I
You're
would
the
do,
wholesaler. I'm just the owner of the property.
okay, you're the owner of the property. I'm going to reach out to you and ask you if you're interested in selling. You're interested in selling, I'm going to get it at a purchase price. Now, the hardest part is figuring out the purchase price you need to get it at. Typically, we get them under contract at 50 to 60% of what they're worth when they're fixed up. And how you find that value is you look at other houses in similar square footage and similar proximity that sold. So if I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's 1,500 square feet, I'm going to look for one that sold fixed up in that neighborhood. If it's the fixed up cost is 300, I'm probably going to offer you 160 or 180 for your property. That's the offer range I need to be in order to do a wholesale transaction. So if you agree to sell me the property at 160, I will have you sign a purchase contract, and the buyer's name is my Roth IRA, Kurt IRA LLC. That's the only thing that changes in doing this with your Roth IRA. Or if you didn't do the LLC, it's the Horizon Trust Custodian, Kurt Nasowitz, la 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 la. So once I have the property under contract, I'm going to go to a title company and I'm going to have them open escrow, and I'm going to put my earnest deposit down, which is where our investment comes in, the $1,000 earnest money. And in that contract, it'll lay out terms. I'm paying you 160,000. The closing date is in 3 weeks, and I have an inspection period of this long. Inside my inspection period, I am going and bringing this deal to Greg. I have a great relationship with Greg. I'm going to text him and I'm going to say, hey, I got this great deal. It's worth 300 fixed up. I can sell it to you for 180. And that's in a sense how wholesaling goes. The buyer is the only thing I change is the buyer is my IRA. And then when I assign it to Greg, I'm also assigning it in my IRA. So I took $1,000 earnest money and turned it into a $20,000 assignment fee. Now, the hard part about wholesaling is finding a seller that's willing to take a low price like that. And the reason they take a low price, there's a multitude of different reasons, but it's because the property's in distress. It might need a new roof, a new AC. There's a leak in the house. Bad tenants is another huge reason. One of our favorite lists to target is called the tired landlord list. It's out of state owners that have owned the property for 7+ years. We call them over and over and over and over again because, they're not as attached to the property, and tenants cause problems, let's be honest, right? Especially if it's a bad one that's not paying you. So if we can go and say, we'll buy your property for 160 and we'll get the tenant out. We'll deal with the tenant. We'll deal with all the repairs. It could be an appealing proposition to some of these sellers.
Yeah. No, that's a great way of outlining it. And he covered a lot there. Hopefully that made sense. But if it didn't, just one thing of the way that I've heard it as well that might help as well is you never actually buy the property, you buy the contract to the property and then sell that contract to the end buyer. So Kurt bought the contract that he will buy my property,
Mm-hmm.
but he never actually purchases the property because he then sells that contract for that 20 grand markup to Greg, who will be the end buyer, who will do all the renovating, who will do everything, and then find the end buyer to that of getting that house sold to, the family that's looking for their first home or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So that's the simplified version if it didn't make sense. But the way Kurt outlined it was very detailed and pretty much outlines it perfectly.
And you don't need the money. You only need the earnest money, really, if you're a wholesaler.
Yeah.
So
And if
don't
you
let
can't
that
find
stop you that you don't have 160,000 in your account. All you really need is the money for the earnest money.
Yeah. If you can't find an end buyer or someone, a Greg to sell it to, then maybe the market that you looked at wasn't correct. Maybe the numbers weren't correct. This isn't a real estate class, but it kind of just turned into it. Um, so,
Yep.
um, so that lets you kind of back out of the deal and reanalyze. So that's kind of what that period is as well. Um, so lots of great questions in here. I want to get through some of these.
Sure.
This one came in super early on from Stacy. I've kind of already covered it, but I'll cover it again. I have a self-directed solo K with Horizon. Is it tax-free like a Roth IRA? Stacy, if it's a regular solo K, it's most likely not tax-free. That's going to be tax deferred. You can, however, open a tax-free 401k. So you can go ahead and email us to operations@horizontrust.com. So that's operations plural. Alicia is also working behind the scenes right now, and she's dropped links to our landing page. I believe it's horizontrust.com/event, where you can book a call, whether you're a new client looking to sign up or an existing client, because maybe you want to open up an LLC or get more information about whatever it is that we've talked about today. You can do that. Alicia did just drop those links into the chat, so we can cover those as well. Kurt, does wholesaling, I guess, well, that's kind of what we've covered. Does it require specific licenses in real estate?
Currently in the state of Arizona, it requires no license or at all. I know it's
Um,
different state to state. In some states you have to be licensed real estate agent, but where I do it in Arizona, there's no license required.
Yeah, so you'll want to check. I know we are streaming kind of nationwide and sometimes even worldwide. We have people joining us from Brazil and London. So you'll definitely want to check the regulations in your area or where you're going to be operating on
Yeah.
what's required to do a wholesale deal. But with that said, you also don't need to work in the area where you live. I live in Las Vegas, that's where we are. But if, for example, Las Vegas had requirements, I could do a wholesale deal in Arizona. I could call people in Arizona and try to do it. But most people like to work in the areas that they know because they understand it best.
Yep.
Mm. Heather, I believe this one was also asked and answered, but could the same process be done through a self-directed traditional IRA? Yes. So at Horizon Trust, self-directed custodian, any account that we hold here, you can do this process. Uh, Kurt, this one's specifically for you. Does Kurt take on investors or just operate within his company?
I work with other investors all the time. So, we get deals direct to seller inside of our company, but we also work with other wholesalers. Like I mentioned before, I bought a deal from a guy in the chat right here, Jackson O'Brien. He sold us a deal. So if you guys have any opportunities in Arizona that are discounted and need a buyer, send me a DM on Instagram, and I'd be happy to look at it and get you a price.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Let's see.
I'll look too.
Uh, I don't want to sound dumb, but I'm about to sound dumb in this question. William, can you leverage funds that are inside a consortium? I think is that the word consortium. Those funds are currently inside a self-directed IRA with you guys. Not entirely sure what the word consortium is, and that I feel like that's a key aspect to this question. So if you can help clarify what that is, that would be great. And I can try to answer it better. BJ's asking, so you're looking for depressed properties to flip to a buyer who will fix it up. Is that correct? So yeah, distressed properties is what we're
Yep.
looking for, essentially. Can't see that.
Yeah, distressed properties that you can get at a discount. A lot of times it could be the property's distressed or the title to the property's distressed. We've been digging into that more. Anywhere that there's a problem, somebody's having a problem with the property, if you can solve it, you can likely get paid on an assignment fee.
Darian is asking, what is the name of the wholesale company you did acquisitions for?
The company that I used to do acquisitions for was Fast Easy Offer. I was there for about a year and a half, killed it with them at acquisitions, and then I started my own company, which is Real Offer. And we have an office, if you're familiar with Mesa, on Power and Main Street. Right on Main Street, we bought a building. So
With a big sign that says "We buy houses."
exactly. Yeah, I've showed it. Yep.
Told you, I've been following you for a while, and
Yeah.
apparently I can remember all of that stuff. Um, Kristen asked a great question, and this is always kind of the question that comes up with wholesalers or when someone is new to the concept is why would someone sell you a discount and leave money on the table? Wouldn't a realtor just sell as is? So yeah, what does that look like?
Well, there's some properties that are just not financeable. So when you typically buy a house, you get a loan from the bank. Some of those houses you can't get a loan on because they're in such rough shape. The realtors are not a guarantee as well. When we're giving an offer, we're coming from the standpoint as a buyer. So it all comes down to what I found is, does the seller trust you and do they like you? And is there a problem for you to solve? So I wouldn't say there's a bunch of these sellers out there. If you take the whole market and break it down, it's about 5 to 10% of the market of everybody that owns a house is in a situation where they would sell, super, discounted.
Absolutely. And let's see. Adelina asked about how many potential buyers should you have lined up before you start calling for a property?
Zero. I wouldn't
Zero.
worry about a buyer, right? You're worrying about a buyer when you don't even have a deal. Get yourself a really good discounted deal and it'll be the easiest. Finding a buyer will be the easiest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. With finding a buyer, yeah, exactly what Kurt said. And once you have that deal, finding the buyer is the easiest part. You could reach out to Kurt via
Yeah.
his Instagram and be like, "Hey, Kurt, I have this deal." He could look it over. If you're a Horizon Trust client, we have our Facebook group where you can post deals as well, and people can partner together, or someone could buy the property entirely within their retirement account. Kurt could be in that group and he's looking for his deal to put inside of his LLC. Maybe
Yeah.
one of you brings that deal to him. So now you both have earned, a little uh, win-win situation
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
So, Kurt, we're adding you to that Facebook group today.
Please do.
Let's see. Suzanne asks, so how much does the contract actually cost? How much do we need to put down?
Yeah, so I mean, everything's negotiable, but what I typically do for my purchase contracts is it's $1,000. So I put down $1,000 as earnest money. Now, if you're asking me what is my contract cost to write up, I hired a lawyer to write it up. It's different from your residential realtor contract, but if you're serious about doing this, send me a DM on Instagram and I'll give you a copy of our purchase contract.
Hey, for those of you that don't know, that is a huge offering right there. Those
Yeah, for
contracts.
anybody that is serious about don't waste my time though. I want you to be serious about wholesaling. Send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you the purchase agreement that I use, the purchase contract that I use to get these under contract.
And Kurt, I'm going to ask this because it's also in one of the questions in the chat. Does your contract cover protection of your earnest money? Because the question that came in was, can you lose your earnest money?
Yes, you can lose your earnest money, but if you lose your earnest money, it's your fault. There is an inspection period inside of your purchase contract. So you buy the house, you have 10 days of your inspection period, at which case you can back out and get your $1,000 back. If you somehow lose that date, lose track of that date, and you cancel on day 11 or 12, you lose your earnest money. But it's still not that much. It's $1,000, $500.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. And then we're wrapping up here. So last question that's kind of on here. Well, a couple things. I just saw it, so I'll make a quick comment. The Facebook group is an exclusive thing for clients, so you have to be a Horizon Trust client to gain access to it. You can email us, horizontrust.com, or operations at horizontrust.com, and we can send you the link to the form that you need to complete in order to gain access to the group. Once you fill out that form, you'll be informed of how to join the group, and then we'll accept you in there, so you can talk there. And the other question from Juan here is, so if I open a self-directed IRA with Horizon Trust, what's the managing fee? We are an all-inclusive plan. So if you're not ready for that checkbook LLC just yet, Kurt did 4 or 5 deals before he started his LLC. You can do the same. That'll save you a little bit of money right now. We are less than 1%. After that, it still goes down. As your account value goes up, your value of fees goes down. So we are always less than 1% of your account's value in regard to fees. But schedule a call with our team. We can assist you with all of that. They'll be able to go over it. We can cover a lot of what was covered here. Our reps weren't on this call, so they won't know everything that we discussed on here, but they are very familiar with real estate investing, wholesaling, and even Kurt's name. They might not know all the details of Kurt's investments, but like I said, we've used him in more presentations than I can remember.
That's
So
awesome to hear.
yeah, and it's just amazing. With
And one
that,
last thing I wanted to say is like a lot of this stuff is just information. Obviously, you guys are here, so you already know about it. But like as soon as I found out about this, I just took action and did it. But a lot of people don't even know you can do this. And it's really one of those things where it's like, this seems like kind of a cheat code. I'm taking money, putting it into an account tax free. I won't pay taxes when I pull it out. It grows tax free. Like it's definitely worth it. So that's all I wanted to leave you with.
no, absolutely. And remember, you're also the bank in this situation. You are the money provided to these deals. Yes, you can be the one finding the deals like Kurt did and like how some of you are trying to do. You are 100% able to do that. But your self directed account, because you're not able to personally use those funds for yourself in a way, you can be the bank and lend to people like Kurt,
Yeah.
who are trying to do these deals, but maybe don't have the money. So use that as well to your advantage, where you have access to the capital that they need. So with that, Kurt, we have wrapped up our hour-long webinar. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. It was such a pleasure having you on and finally being able to connect with you like this.
Yeah.
I know you and I have been talking for about a year now, back and forth through Instagram. So
Yeah, it's been too long.
yeah, absolutely. This was a long time coming. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone for joining us again. This is recorded and will be available on Greg's YouTube channel if you do want to watch it later. There'll be links to Kurt's information as well as our team's information if you do want to schedule a call with our team, whether you're an existing client or looking to open an account. And yeah, so thank you everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Kurt, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. There's lots more great content for you to learn and enjoy and apply to. And so anyways, click on the link below and listen to more videos or set an appointment with us. We look forward to hearing from you and also helping you.